young dragon named Spyro. He journeyed across enchanting worlds to rescue other dragons from the spells of Nasty Nork. After battling Nasty and his minions, Spyro brought peace back to the land. Spyro mania swept the country, and everyone lived happily ever after. Not that feisty lizard burned
Ah!
of a sheep. Cool. PlayStation.
Oh, that's a good one. Alright, so Insomniac Games' first game, Disruptor, definitely wasn't the slam dunk start that you would probably expect from such a prestigious studio. The game was an immense commercial failure, which really upset the team at Insomniac. Thankfully, the game was a critical success. Critics absolutely loved the game. So that prompted Universal Interactive, who was shepherding Insomniac and Naughty Dog at the time, to give the studio another shot. They encouraged Insomniac Games to try and do something a bit more similar to Crash Bandicoot, which had already released at the time and was doing game busters for the company. Insomniac would get to it, and after tinkering with the idea of a 3D platformer for a while, they would eventually come up with something concrete in the form of Spyro the Dragon. In Spyro the Dragon, you take the role of, well, Spyro the Dragon, a baby dragon who is spared from a curse set upon by Nasty Norg that turns all his dragon brethren into statues. It can be broken through the use of fire breath, so Spyro takes it upon himself to save his kinship and also defeat Nasty Norg. Pretty basic plot for the time, about what you would expect from a PlayStation game at the time. And I also wouldn't say that it has the same personality that people probably think of when they think of Spyro the Dragon. I typically think of Spyro as another one of the, mascot platformers, the cool dude with a bad attitude type of character. And while that's definitely here in this game, it's not quite as well fleshed out as it is in other games. Still, Spyro is a very memorable design. I mean, I really love his color scheme, and he always pops out against whatever background he's in. So they definitely did a good job with the presentation here. In fact, Insomniac came up with a groundbreaking graphical trick when they were making Spyro. A common thing that people struggled with during the early days of 3D was draw distance. And to get around that, a lot of developers would choose to implement darkness or some kind of fog in order to hide the pop-in. But Insomniac came up with a graphical trick where the further an item is, a structure is away from you, the less detail it has. So as you approach it, it further renders itself. It made the levels in Spyro seem a lot bigger than they actually were, and it allowed the game to function without the need for the fog or darkness or what other people were using. It really was a technical marvel for the time, and because the art design is so nice, Spyro hasn't aged a day in its life in regards to its music, its presentation. Its music is also something special too. It was actually done by, I think, Steve Conti. He was the drummer for The Police, and he actually comes up with a great and very distinct soundtrack for the game. It's one of the finest on the PlayStation, and I think he would do the music for all the Spyro games moving forward. As far as gameplay is concerned, Spyro is very much a stock standard 3D platformer. You explore a variety of levels, trying to find all kinds of little knickknacks, namely trying to free the dragons, and just trying to get enough of the collectibles so that you can move forward and eventually fight Nasty Norg. If you've played any 3D platformer from the time, this is going to feel very familiar, and it's also going to feel just a little bit dull because the thing about Spyro was that it was intended to be a beginner's platformer. So it's a lot easier and a lot simpler than a lot of games that were coming out at the time. So for someone like me who's played a ton of platformers in his day, it just feels a little on the dull side. Not to say it's bad, it's still done very well, and there's a reason so many people hold this game in such high esteem. But it's just not my platformer. I have similar thoughts to this game as I do on the Kirby franchise. Regardless of what I feel about Spyro, though, the game was a huge hit when it came out. And of course, it would be followed by a trilogy of games on the original PlayStation. However, after that, Sony snatched up Insomniac as a second-party developer, and on the PlayStation, they would start making Ratchet & Clank, which would definitely go on to become probably their most famous franchise. Unfortunately for Spyro, he suffered the same fate as Crash Bandicoot, where he was handed off to other developers who just didn't do the character justice. Spyro Into the Dragonfly was especially reviled when it came out, and though several other games were released during this time, nothing really compared to what was on PlayStation. Eventually, they tried to breathe new life into the series with a reboot in the form of the Legend of Spyro series. This was actually a very high-profile series when it came out, with a lot of big-name actors like Elijah Wood lending their talents to it. But, fans didn't really take to it, especially with the new tone and shift in gameplay. So it would ultimately be forgotten, though I'm starting to find that it has something of a cult following. There are people out there who like this game. Where Spyro really fell off the map, though, was with probably his most successful game, which was Skylanders. Yeah, I think a lot of people forget that Skylanders was initially a game in the Spyro series. But, the whole Toys to Life thing became such a big thing that he just got buried under so much other things in that game. And Skylanders would be a huge deal for several years until the whole Toys to Life fad unfortunately passed, and, well, that seemed like that was the end of Spyro. That is until the release of Spyro the Reunited trilogy, which basically did for the series what the Insane trilogy did for Crash, remaking the old games with shiny new 3D graphics and enhanced gameplay mechanics. If you want to play the classic Spyro games, this is without a doubt the best way to do it. Just look at it. These graphics are gorgeous, dude. Unlike Crash, though, there hasn't been another Spyro game since the Reunited trilogy. I'm starting to wonder if maybe it just didn't do as well as Crash Bandicoot, but, only time will tell. I'm a little concerned that Spyro's going to go the way of Crash, where, since both of them are under Activision now, they're just going to be forgotten in favor of stuff like Call of Duty. Who knows? Something good could happen from it. But anyway, that does it for Spyro, guys. Join me tomorrow as we continue on with our PlayStation Retrospective. I'll see you then.